In this lecture, we are going to go over the many requirements for providers of high-risk systems. We will start with a quick note that AI is subject to other EU law, and I will point out a few areas that you should remember for the exam just in case. We are then going to spend our time looking very briefly at a high level through Articles A through 22 of the EU AI Act. I've broken these into two sections, Section 2 and Section 3. Section 2 includes Articles 8 through 15, and Section 3 includes Articles 16 through 22. For the exam, I don't think you need to remember the specific articles, but you do need to know what the requirements are. In this lecture, we're going to do a high-level overview of those requirements, and then in subsequent lectures, we're going to spend a little bit more time looking at each one in particular. As always, for these long lists, I'm providing you with a couple mnemonic devices to aid your memorization. As you might imagine, AI systems are subject to other EU laws. Examples include product safety and financial institution requirements. And when different requirements overlap, organizations may integrate their testing, reporting, and governance efforts into existing documentation and procedures. And this was intentional from the lawmaker's point of view to help organizations from having to duplicate efforts. For the rest of this lecture, we're going to focus on the requirements for high-risk systems. Now, the details are provided in Articles 8 through 22. However, the mnemonic devices will not include Articles 8 or 16. And when we get there, I will tell you why. So the mnemonics will only focus on 9 through 15 and 17 through 22. So Article 8, why isn't Article 8 included in the mnemonic? Well, in short, Article 8 is compliance with the requirements. And they're all requirements, so we should comply with all of them. Why do we need an article to say to comply with the other articles? I don't know, but we do. So that's Article 8, compliance with the requirements. Under this article, providers must comply with Section 2. All actors have an interest in ensuring compliance. For example, importers must ensure they have the appropriate technical documentation, and deployers must understand the different use cases of the systems they deploy. Article 16, again, this is not included in the mnemonic, and Article 16 is quote-unquote other obligations. Most of these obligations concern conformity, so you'll see the word conformity throughout these different other obligations. For example, the obligation to affix the CE or European conformity marking, and the CE acronym stands for that word in French, which I will not try to pronounce lest I become the laughingstock of the internet. But it translates into English as European conformity. Similarly, conformity assessments are required, a declaration of conformity, and other obligations are register the system in the EU database, include the provider's name, trademark, and address, and comply with accessibility requirements. So from here on out, we're going to look, again, high level at the major requirements into two different groups. There's the Section 2 group, which we have here, and the Section 3 group, which we'll look at next. Articles 9 through 15 outline the following requirements: risk management, data and data governance, technical documentation, record keeping, transparency, human oversight, and accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity. Again, in subsequent lectures, we're going to talk about each of these in detail. This is just a high-level overview. For these articles, I've put together the following mnemonic device: Ross draws tripping robots, triggering happy accidents. Now, I'm going to have to unpack this mnemonic device for folks because there are a lot of American cultural nuances here. So Bob Ross, and I'm calling him Ross here, Bob Ross is a famous painter. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he's well known for doing landscape painting. So he was, I believe his show was on PBS in America. And he taught people how to paint, right? How do we do very simple landscape portraits? At the same time, as Bob Ross was showing people how to paint, every now and then he would make a little accident. and he would call it a happy little accident. And so if he smudged some paint somewhere on the canvas he didn't mean to, he would turn that little smudge into a small little pond or a cloud or whatever, and he would call it a happy little accident. So that's Bob Ross, and that's where I get happy accident from. Now, what about tripping robots? Well, tripping is a colloquial verb for what happens or the feeling someone gets when they are under the effects of LSD, an illicit drug. Maybe it's because of my own time as a rambunctious adolescent who experimented with things. But for me, I had to come up with something that was going to help you remember these. Bob Ross and tripping and happy accidents just ended up in my brain. And so this is what we got. So I want you to think about Bob Ross drawing happy little accidents. And this happy little accident just happens to be a robot that is tripping balls. Section 3, or Articles 17 through 22, provide the following requirements: quality management system, document keeping, logs, corrective actions / duty of information, cooperation with competent authorities and authorized representatives. And the mnemonic device for this part of the requirements is: Queen dislikes luxurious cactus cake. Really? And note here that the really is after representatives, not authorized. So think representative, and then of course the only AI operator that uses the word representative is the authorized representative. Again, why a luxurious cactus cake? I don't know. I'm a little weird. In this lecture, I provided a very high-level overview of the different requirements for high-risk AI systems. Remember that AI systems are subject to other EU laws, such as product safety and financial. When requirements overlap, organizations may integrate their testing, reporting, governance efforts, etc. into existing documentation and procedures. The mnemonic devices that we've provided do not cover Articles 8 or 16. 8 is compliance with the requirements. 16 is other obligations. Try to remember those other obligations as conformity obligations, because we see the word conformity a lot there. Articles 9 through 15 deal with risk management, data and data governance, technical documentation, record keeping, transparency, human oversight, and accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity. The mnemonic device for Articles 9 through 15 is Ross draws tripping robots, triggering happy accident. Articles 17 through 22 cover quality management systems, document keeping, logs, corrective actions / duty of information, cooperation with competent authorities, and authorized representatives. Finally, the mnemonic device for Articles 17 through 22 is Queen dislikes luxurious cactus cake. Really?